you've ever stood in the pet food aisle feeling completely overwhelmed by the endless rows and shelves of canned food, dry food, and other options, wondering which one will actually keep your cat healthy and happy, this video is for you. If you're new here, welcome! I'm Dr. Emily, and this channel is dedicated to helping you take the best care of your senior kitty. Make sure to hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss a thing, and like and share the videos so I can create more content like it. Today we're diving into one of the most debated topics in feline nutrition: dry food versus wet food. Cat caretakers are often divided on this issue, but the truth is, there isn't a one-size-fits-all answer. In this video, we'll cover the nutritional differences, the pros and cons of each option, special health considerations, and practical recommendations based on science, not marketing. But before we dive too deep on this topic, I just have to say how incredibly sad it makes me to see the amount of stress caretakers put on themselves around nutrition. Yes, nutrition can be an incredibly important tool, but it's also important to remember we can only do so much. Above all else, a cat needs to eat. Period. Full stop. End of conversation. Your cat doesn't care what you want it to eat. And it certainly doesn't care what we consider to be healthy. And they definitely don't care what the internet nutrition marketers say. So please, watch this video, but also know that your cat must eat. And chances are you're feeding them something way better than they would find if they were left to their own devices out on the streets hunting for food. Give yourself a little grace. Okay, let's break down wet food and dry food. When it comes to wet food nutrition, canned food tends to be made up of about 75 to 85% water. Compare that to just 6 to 10% in many dry foods. On average, wet food has more protein and fewer carbohydrates, in theory making it closer to the cat's natural diet. Wet food also tends to have fewer calories per volume, which means the cat has to eat more to meet their caloric daily intake. And the preservation system varies between canned food and pouches, but both are shelf stable until they're opened. Dry food, on the other hand, tends to be more calorie dense, and often it contains more carbohydrates, about 30 to 50% of the calories. It's more convenient to measure, to store, it has a much longer shelf life, and it tends to be more cost effective. The extrusion process in creating dry food exposes the ingredients to high heat levels, which can damage some of the nutrients in it, but the nutrient analysis done on these foods is done after processing. So what you see as nutrient analysis is what you get. Now, where the waters literally get muddled on this is what we call the hydration factor. So cats, in theory, evolved from desert-dwelling creatures. This means that their kidneys are incredibly efficient at conserving water. Because of this, it's pretty common not to see a healthy cat at their water bowl. Cats also have what's called a fixed lapping rate, meaning they can only drink so much water in a period of time, versus as humans, we can sip water or we can chug water. We also know that hydration becomes a bigger player as our cats age or develop diseases like urinary or kidney issues. Next, let's go over the pros and cons of wet food versus dry food. So the advantages of wet food are that moisture content. It helps cats boost their hydration needs by providing it in the food. Now, if you have a young, healthy cat who's not dehydrated, that may not give you any benefit. But if you are looking for a way to get more moisture into your cat, canned food is one strategy. It can be beneficial for weight management. As I mentioned before, because it's less calorie dense, a cat physically has to eat more to meet their caloric needs. That makes portion control a little bit easier. It can be an advantage for kidney and urine health. Extra moisture may support kidney health, and it may reduce the risk of urinary issues. Then there's the palatability. Many cats do prefer the taste and texture of canned food over dry food. And with that higher protein and water content, cats tend to feel more satisfied after they've eaten. On the disadvantage side, canned food tends to be more expensive per serving. It requires refrigeration after opening, and it's definitely less convenient for busy schedules and travel. Although we do have some companies bringing to market automatic feeders that are refrigerated specifically for canned food, which is kind of a cool development. Canned food will spoil faster in a warm environment, and it can be messier to serve. If you have a cat that needs to maintain their weight, canned food can actually be a disadvantage because of that lower calorie content. Next, pros and cons of dry food. The pros of dry food involve it being more convenient to store, easier to serve, and often easier to measure. It tends to be more affordable in the long term, and it's easy to use in puzzle feeders or for free feeding. Although for 99% of cats, I wouldn't recommend free feeding them anyway. Dry food also doesn't spoil as quickly, making it travel and busy schedule friendly. And if you're going to use a dental specific diet, it can help improve oral health. On the flip side, disadvantages of dry food include it provides almost no water to the cats, so they must drink more to accommodate for that and maintain their hydration. Not saying cats can't do it. Cats will drink more water if they need to, but dry food, by definition, has the moisture removed from it. It's also higher in carbohydrates, which can definitely be an issue for diabetic cats. It can also be an issue for cats that are more prone to weight gain. Because of that calorie density in those carbohydrates, they tend to put on weight faster. All of this means it's really easy to overeat. Let's move on to what I call the special considerations. A normal, healthy cat will typically do just fine whether they're eating canned food or dry food. The conversation becomes a little stickier when we're talking about a cat that has a disease, has a chronic disease, is an aging animal, or we have dehydration concerns. Food should really be looked at as another tool in our tool belt. Some cats do better with very specific tools. For example, diabetes, urinary issues, kidney disease, those are all states where the body can benefit from more water. These cats may simply thrive more on a canned food diet. Senior cats can also fall into this category because their mobility may prevent them from getting to the water dish, they may have a disease that simply requires them to have more water, or because nutrient requirements change as the cat ages. On the flip side though, some of our senior cats eat much smaller meals and portions, and feeding them only canned food can lead to weight loss. In that particular case, we need a dry food for that calorie density to keep weight on the cat. Something else to consider is a cat that traditionally eats dry food may need help sooner if they develop diseases that require more hydration. For example, when they've got vomiting or diarrhea, they're losing excessive amounts of water that they may not be able to replace because of that fixed lapping rate I mentioned. Remember how I said they could only drink so much water in a period of time? They can't chug water when they need extra water. So if they're eating dry food only, it's important to remember that, okay, these cats, if they develop vomiting or diarrhea, they may need fluid support sooner than a cat that's eating a canned food only diet. You may find that some veterinarians recommend a hybrid approach, meaning you feed your cat dry food and canned food. For some, this is a great way to balance out the hydration issues, the storage factor, the cost, all of the pros and cons, and kind of get the best of both worlds. However, whether or not this is scientifically proven to really do anything, that remains to be seen. If you are going to transition your cat from any diet, please make sure you do it slowly to avoid GI upset. The last thing we want to do is try and give them one of these diets and create vomiting and diarrhea, which is a situation where they need more hydration, and now we've just created a major problem. And regardless of the diet you choose to use or the diet your cat chooses to eat, we certainly want to encourage water. You want water bowls with fresh water, fountains, all the tips I've provided in other videos on trying to keep your cat interested in their water and hydrated. And if you need some budget tips because your budget requires you to feed a dry food, then buy canned food in bulk. You could add water or broth to the dry food. But most importantly, focus on nutrients rather than ingredient marketing claims. So when you're deciding what to do and what is best for your cat, it's important that you look at your cat's health status. You want to consider their age and activity level. You need to weigh your budget and realistically look at your schedule. Definitely take your cat's preferences seriously. I'm telling you, this is not the time to pick an argument of whether your cat thinks canned food is better than dry food or you think dry food is better than canned food. And in the end, always consult with your veterinarian. Bottom line, the best food is the one your cat does well on. They'll eat it, they're hydrated, they're not overweight, and they thrive on it. This isn't a one-size-fits-all scenario, and anyone who tells you there is a hard black and white line between canned food and dry food and what your cat should be eating, does not understand the complexity of cat health and their nutrition. But the cool news, as science evolves, our feeding strategies can evolve as well. Always remember, just because something makes sense doesn't make it true. And frankly, our cats don't care about either one. They just want something yummy to eat. Have you noticed that your cat has a distinct preference? Does that preference correlate with what you think? Share below in the comments. We'd love to hear your experiences. And if you found this video helpful, feel free to like and share with another cat caretaker so we can start promoting science-based veterinary information.